Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is John J Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the NCSL Dynasty here on NCAA 14, and also featuring that college football revamp as well. We actually saw a fair number of upsets in week number 1, but we continue our non-conference play here in week number 2 as we start asking ourselves, okay, who's actually a team that is for real and ready to compete for those bigger things in life like conference championships and national championships, and who is out there that are just pretending and just trying to fake it till you make it? Well, we are here in week number 2. We're going to figure out those questions and a lot more, as we do have 16 nationally televised games once again, so it should be a very good one. I'm very excited about this week number 2 starting up. Have some very intriguing matchups around the country that I'm very excited to watch and commentate for you guys here today. I hope you guys feel the same way as well. If you do, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button, hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel. And now, let's go jump onto the football fields around the country for this week 2 action. Let's get it in. Alright, boys, so with that being said, let's go ahead and get that NCSL action started. Here in week number 2, we have a pair of Sunbelt games going, but we also will check in first and foremost on the number 13 team in America right now, and that is Nebraska Cornhuskers, coming off of a big-time win against Texas last week, and now we'll see if they can keep it going. But Purdue has a pretty sizable lead early. Brian Robinson, however, will break the scoring drought, as Brian Robinson will get his very first rushing touchdown of year number 4. However, it seems like the Cornhuskers are quickly getting it together, as we have a very explosive first quarter. We might be seeing a quarter where more than 30 points are scored in one singular quarter. An explosive start here in Lincoln, Nebraska. And sure enough, we get exactly that as Tim Hayden finds the end zone. So touchdown for Nebraska. But even with that explosive corner from the offenses, we still have a very tight game between both teams. Purdue is playing very tough. They are still seeking their first win of the season. But of course, you know, George Gentry, man, gotta give him credit where credit is due. He is playing some high-level football right now, and that will continue. Tim Hayden's gonna score yet again. We have a 30-piece on the board before we even get into halftime. But this defense for the Cornhuskers, it's gotta do something right now. Like, this defense has been absolutely atrocious so far in this first half. And so the Boilermakers are looking to keep those lows going. And sure enough, Purdue might score on this play. And they will, with Brad Smith cutting it down to just a 3-point game. Are we going to see some early upsets here in week number 2? We saw a fair number in the first opening week, but in week number 2 as well, that would truly be a shocker as well. So Nebraska, they're on upset alert right now. We'll see how they handle it. Red zone opportunity for the Cornhuskers. Brian throws over the middle and finds Terrell Harrell in the end zone. Touchdown, Cornhuskers. Brian Robinson has been effective today, and we'll see if that effectiveness continues as he's looking for his third. No, count it, 4 touchdowns on the day. Brian Robinson gets his second one on the ground, and eventually Nebraska does pull away, winning in a shootout 61-47 to remain undefeated. But we'll see if there are some other shootouts here in the early part of week number 2 as we go down to the Bayou down in New Orleans, Louisiana. They are hosting the number 8 team in the nation, the Ole Miss Rebels, where Dedrick Hill is going to get his second receiving touchdown of the year. But Tulane will be looking to get back into the game, though. They are not intimidated by this number 8 team in college football, as a score on this drive would cut it back to just a 1-possession game. Tulane continuing the red zone opportunity, gonna hand it off over to the right-hand side, and Eric Anderson finds the end zone. Touchdown, Green Wave. And they're gonna wave their way into a 3-point deficit. As a matter of fact, before we get into halftime, the Green Wave might have a chance to take the lead. Except you got to hold on to that football, big fella. That's the big problem. and Tulane turns it over for the second time in the first half, and also giving Ole Miss a chance to score as well, starting on the positive side of the 50. And Neil Austin will eventually get the Rebels into the red zone yet again. New quarterback for the Rebels as Eric Archie, he graduated. He'll find Dedrick Hill once again. He's been a good safety blanket here in game number 2. But there's old reliable Justin Forwerda, the starting tailback for the Rebels. He's back for year number 4, and he'll find the end zone yet again. But still, even with that, it's still a tight game going into the second half. Could still go in either direction right now, but Ole Miss is looking to pull away as their first drive of the second half leads them inside the 10-yard line. Looking over to the left-hand side, we're going to find his man, Justin Forwerda, into the end zone. Touchdown, Rebels! So Ole Miss extends their lead and trying to leave Tulane in the dust, but they're really trying to work their home crowd here at Yulman Stadium as the Yulman Stadium faithful trying to will Tulane to their very first victory of the season. They could use one here in the Sun Belt, a very competitive Sun Belt conference. Really isn't really one of the more in-depth conferences in the entirety of college football from top to bottom. But yeah, 27-16 is your score. Looking for a dagger, and sure enough, a dagger will be found in Luis Kelly in the back of the end zone. Myron Nichols having an excellent day today, over 250 yards through the air as Ole Miss improves to 2-0. Meanwhile, keeping it in the Sun Belt Conference, we now check in on number 18, Alabama. Well, they also have to go on the road, but they will be taking on the Memphis Tigers. Memphis coming off of a tough loss against Oregon in week number 1. But that being said, Alabama, this is their first game of the season, and in this post-Nick Saban era, it's been the case since for a while now. Nick Saban retired well before this series even started, since we simulated 10 years. Alabama has not been the same team, which I'm sure a lot of Alabama fans are worried about now that Nick Saban is actually retired in real life. We actually just saw that news break last night as I'm recording this commentary, but Alabama is still in this game though. Tough environment in the Liberty Bowl Stadium as he tries to throw it out to the left-hand side, finds his tailback. Hey, shout out that tailback, able to find a lot of space, able to get to about midfield. A couple of plays later though, Memphis dropping back to throw once again. Got an open man in the zone coverage. Keith Bower just found that soft spot in the zone and takes full advantage. And that's really all that you need to do. And if you're trying to pull an upset off against a top 20 team, you gotta be aggressive. And oh baby, was he aggressive there. James Everson, wide, butt naked open. He finds the end zone for the touchdown. And Memphis has a 28-16 lead. So the upset alert, oh baby, it is real right now. The ranked teams in this early slate seem to have really struggled mightily, and it looks like that will continue as that is intercepted by one of your customs, Seth Randolph, trying to take it down the sideline, and he breaks a tackle too. He's gonna be gone, baby. That is Seth Randolph in the end zone. Touchdown, Memphis. And the Tigers faithful are in pandemonium right now. They are less than 10 minutes of total game time away from pulling the upset on the number 18 team in college football. But Alabama, they are not going to go down quietly. Matt Burchard's going to get the rushing touchdown. They will also go for the 2-point conversion, but it's no good. Matt Burchard gets lit up like a Christmas tree. And so it's going to be a 16-point game. Any points scored by Memphis would make it deep trouble. And oh baby, Alabama, they are in some deep trouble right now. Memphis gets another touchdown on the board. And Memphis putting up a 40-piece on Alabama. This has been a little bit of a surprise here in week number 2. I thought Memphis could be competitive, but to do this to the number 18 team in the nation right now, this is a true shocker on our hands right now. But Alabama will score yet again. I would imagine they'll go for the 2-point conversion. They will. Little bit of a risk it for the biscuit type strategy, but Matt Burchard, he runs out of time again. That's the second time that he's been sacked on these 2-point conversions. And with Memphis having the lead that they have right now, really all they gotta do is really run out as much of this clock as they possibly can. Not to mention, they can also put up a 50-burger if they really wanted to. They will try to throw for it on third down, and the third down pass is actually caught by none other than Keith Butler. He gets his 4th catch of the day. And now we're looking at a goal line situation. Looking over the middle. It's going to be a read option. And how about the tough running by Trey Richardson? And it's going to happen. Memphis puts up a 50-piece on the number 18 team in the nation as Memphis stuns Alabama 52-28. Wow, what a shock there. But let's go ahead and take a quick break from those game actions as we do get some box scores. Arkansas beats Louisiana Tech 24-18, and that allows Arkansas to get to 2-0 to start this season. And then we also get some more studio updates after that. Arkansas State beats Mississippi State in an absolute shootout. The Red Wolves win 35-28 to win their opener. But now we have a few more games coming through, and most notably we have number 9 Texas looking to redeem themselves after they lost at home to Nebraska last week. But first we have a battle of 1-0 teams. North Carolina hosting Cincinnati. North Carolina, even though they won in a blowout, they were removed from the top 25. So looking to prove that they are indeed one of the best 25 teams in the country. But Cincinnati, led by their new offensive coordinator, they're already doing much better than they were last season. Cincinnati, they did not win a single game last year. The Bearcats were down horrendous. But here they are with a borderline top 25 team hanging around with this North Carolina squad. They are right in this game. And it's going to be a tie ball game, but not for long, because a couple of minutes later, North Carolina is going to march right down the field. And Danny Bates, who is back for another season, he is going to give the Tar Heels a 14-7 lead. And really, this North Carolina offense really found its groove here starting in the second quarter. You got that dot in the back of the end zone. That dot was absolutely crazy. So North Carolina looking like they're starting to pull away. But give credit to the Cincinnati Bearcats. They are continuing to fight this entire time. Chris Burns nearly picks up a first down through the air. Doesn't quite get there, but is going to be marked just 1 yard shy. So, going to go ahead and call some no huddle real quick. Marcus Stallings finds the end zone, and the Bearcats are right back into this thing. So, it remains close all throughout the third quarter. Both teams trading field goals, matter of fact. But the Tar Heels are looking to put this game away late. Andy Jackson, who's gotten quite a few carries today, he's starting to approach 100 yards. But his backup, Victor Britt, actually will siphon a touchdown off as North Carolina, again, with a 2-possession lead. And they grow it all the way up to a 21-point difference as Cincinnati desperately trying to come back and win this game, as there is Antonio Martinez, one of your guys' customs, by the way, making a catch. He's making a decent impact as a sophomore. Leslie Vaughn, though, man. Leslie Vaughn able to find the end zone. Touchdown, Bearcats. And so the Bearcats get it back to a 14-point game, but time clearly not on their side right now. Less than 3 minutes left to play in the ball game. The Bearcats do get it into the goal line, but had a hard time punching it in. Needed all the way to 4th down to finally get it done, where Marcus Stallings finds the end zone. However, it was too little too late, as North Carolina does hang on and win 41-34. So, we now check in on that number 9 team in the nation, the Texas Longhorns. They are hosting Iowa State. And Iowa State is going to be in one of those situations where they're just caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Because you already know, after the way that Texas was embarrassed in that second half against Nebraska, they're going to come out firing on all cylinders. And boy, did that expectation was completely lived up. This was going to be one of those games where it doesn't matter what you tried to do. It simply wasn't going to work today, as Omar Jackson, he's going to run it in all by himself. He's going to find the end zone there. And quickly, Texas races off to a 17-0 lead. and it won't take long for that lead to get ballooned much further, as Jason Adams already has over 150 yards passing. We still have 3 more quarters left to play, guys. Like, he's been a problem for the Cyclone secondary all day long, and it looks like that will certainly continue. As now 24-0, gonna hand it off to the tailback, who's gonna break a couple of tackles, almost forces his way in, but Lonnie Cameron gonna be marked just shy, and they won't let him finish the drive off. Instead, it's gonna be Jason Adams, the quarterback for the Texas Longhorns. Well, he's gonna go right back into the end zone. And yeah, this was pretty open and shut in terms of how not competitive this game was. 62-7 was your score. Meanwhile, we have a battle of 2 teams that are both still looking for their very first win of the season. Stanford going to travel all the way across the country in order to take on the Spartans of Michigan State. And Michigan State, we're finding out why they might have lost their first game of the season. We saw them, I believe, it might have been in a studio update. I don't remember who they played up against, though. But Michigan State did lose their first game of the season, and Stanford, well, they're going to take advantage of the interception. They're going to drive it all the way inside the 5-yard line, and then after that, a couple of plays later, both teams are in their power I formations, and Stanford just won that end zone a little bit more. Touchdown Cardinal, and Justin Goodner will get the first points of the game. However, it remains close throughout the first half, though, as not a lot of much scoring happening after the initial opening drive for Stanford. However, the Spartans could be set up in beautiful position here. They could get some points off of that interception, and they do. They managed to get a field goal out of it. However, that very next drive for the Stanford Cardinal, Scott Perry gets open in the corner, and Matt Rousman puts it right on the money. And from there on out, Stanford ends up dominating the rest of this game. After Michigan State goes on that 10-7 lead late in the second quarter, Stanford responds, and they do more than respond. They dominate the second half, and frankly, the rest of this game. Another score here would probably put this out of reach unless there is a miracle upon miracles. Stanford's gonna win this 37-10, so 30 unanswered points for the Stanford Cardinal allow for this West Coast squad to win their first game of the season. So now we are starting to see a lot more games happening around the same time. You'll actually never guess where the college game day actually ended up going to. I was actually a little bit surprised as well when I saw it on the the main screen where all the games are scheduled and whatnot. First, it will check in on Troy. Troy did win their first game of the season, a shootout against Georgia Southern. However, LSU coming off of a shocking loss against Southern Miss. So I'm sure those LSU Tigers here in Death Valley are looking to avoid going on that 0-2 start, but Troy has gotten better over the years. Troy, they do have the benefit of playing in a really tough conference, so the record hasn't shown it in year number 3, but Troy is a solid football team. This is certainly going to be no pushover for the LSU Tigers, and it remains as such throughout the first half. Very closely contested first half. A first half that didn't see nearly as much scoring as maybe what we would have originally witnessed in some of the earlier games that took place this season. However, 2nd and 3 coming up. LSU looking to go back to work as they're going to hand it off over to the right-hand side. That's going to be picked up for a first down by Mark Palmer. Mark Palmer not getting very many carries today, but making the most of his opportunities. He's averaging 6.5 yards a carry. And matter of fact, I think he stays on the field for this next run. And yes, he does. Mark Palmer is actually allowed to finish that drive out. LSU does have their biggest lead of the day. And beyond that, LSU just never looked back. 5 minutes left in the game, going to hand it off to the tailback, Andre Concepcion. And Concepcion getting his fair share of carries as well. A little bit of a running back by committee down there in LSU, but Derek Brown is the mainstay of this Tiger offense. He'll keep it himself as they will eventually put away the Troy Trojans here LSU wins 27-13 to get that first dub here in year number 4. Meanwhile, another ranked team in the top 25 getting ready to go on the road. This is number 19 Florida. They lost last week against Georgia Tech in a very exciting opening matchup. They're taking on South Florida. South Florida winning their first game of the year. They blow out Nevada in the opener. And this has some big SEC implications here early on. This is the opening game, of course, for the Sunshine Division. This helps with that Sunshine Division supremacy, as I'm sure both these teams are going to be chasing those Miami Hurricanes this year. And USF gets off to a great start here. This would be a statement if USF can actually hang on and win, but still a lot of football left to be played. And the junior quarterback, Octavian Cater, well, he played a little bit in his first couple of years at wide receiver. Finally getting his chance at quarterback, though, and Octavian Cater, he's been delivering so far. He's been playing some good ball here to start his stint in the Octavian Cater era. He was going to eventually hand it off for a Sonny, and we might have another shootout on our hands. A lot of shootouts that we've witnessed here in year number 4. Something that I've definitely noticed for sure, but tie ball game, 17 apiece here, and Octavian Cater is putting together yet another drive. Cater is going to hand it off to the tailback. He's going to fall his blockers forward to get to, looks like might be about the 5-yard line, give or take. Eric Board has broken off some pretty big runs here in the first half, but a little bit of fullback love, though, to Nate Perry. Nate Perry finds the end zone for the Florida Gators. And that does mean that USF, for the first time today, is actually going to be down by a touchdown. We'll see how USF can respond here, though, as the Bulls are looking to tie this thing back up. Looking to drop backs, got some time in the pocket, throws to the right-hand side, and throws that pass up into double coverage. Hey, yo, what are we doing? Joe Davis gets an easy interception there, which does eventually lead to a field goal. So USF's definitely starting to feel like this game is really getting away from them right now, as Adam Romero is going to get a nice carry there. But yeah, USF, they need some points, and they need it today. USF hands it off yet again, but this time to Robert Sheldon, who gets to that inside that 5-yard line. I imagine he'll go to Adam Shelton yet again. But wait a minute, it's a read option. It is a keeper for the FCS transfer. And Pat Bush, who finds the end zone. Touchdown, Southern Florida. And the Bulls trying to get back into this game, but they certainly need some stops, though. Cater is going to make sure that Florida is going to put this game away, as they have yet another red zone opportunity. The Florida offense has been humming along spectacularly, and they're learning from their hard lessons in their opening loss to Georgia Tech, as has a dot to Jamie Bowen in the end zone. Touchdown, Gators. So Florida takes the lead, an even bigger lead, I should say. And it just seems like Southern Florida, I mean, I'm going to be excited to see what Southern Florida does here over the course of this season. They seem like a fun team to watch, but man, in that second half, it just seems like Southern Florida, they are just running out of gas right now. They just don't got it today, at least particularly in the second half. But USF does get into the red zone here. They're going to look to try to make this score look a little bit easier on the eyes. A 2-possession loss doesn't look as bad as a 3-possession loss, even though it might not change that ultimate outcome. And sure enough, Pat Bush is going to work his way into the end zone. Showed some real toughness there down on the goal line to get USF to that 30-point mark. But they're going for 2-point as well. This would make it just a 2-possession game, and another tough run for Robert Sheldon. So USF playing with some pride, but USF will also be dropping their first game of the season as the Gators overwhelm Southern Florida 48-32. Meanwhile, the Tennessee Volunteers open their season up on the road with some action in this new version of the MAC Conference. Tennessee makes the trip up to Morgantown, West Virginia, take on the West Virginia Mountaineers. And West Virginia did win their first game of the season in their opening week. They're going to be looking to go to 2-0. And if they can get to 2-0, beat this Tennessee team that did make the college football playoff last year. They got eliminated in the first round, but hey, they were there in that college football playoff. Could make some early impressions in that top 25, as West Virginia has not been ranked since, I believe, all the way back in year number 1. It's been a hot minute. But Tennessee down by 7, and it looks like the Volunteers will find the end zone right before the end of the corner, courtesy of Bo Burns. And matter of fact, the Volunteers look like they're ready to take their first lead of the season. Landrum's going to drop back the pass and tries to float that one up, trying to throw it up in the seam, but you know, that's just a very ill-advised throw there by Tim Landrum. Really not a lot of space to pull that off, and very fortunate that West Virginia, honestly, was not really able to do anything with it, right? But I'm sure West Virginia might be able to do something with that interception, though, as Landrum has just been wildly inconsistent here. Going to be picked off by the FCS transfer in Eddie Townsend. That being said, though, the West Virginia Mountaineers do have a chance to retake the lead there, as that will be a first down for your Mountaineers. And now looking at a 3rd and 4 coming up. Looking around, fires over the middle of the field, and it's caught. Touchdown, West Virginia. And Taylor Steffens, the FCS transfer, gives the Mountaineers the lead against that number 14 team in the nation, those Tennessee Volunteers. So Tennessee will look to respond as we're getting to the closing moments of the first half, as Landrum has a little time in the pocket, tries to throw over to the left-hand side, and just did not put enough air under that ball. Granted, that was going to be a tough play to make regardless. Dynasty Anderson, the true freshman out of Progress, Pennsylvania, man, making an immediate impact, and that's why recruiting is so important. You know, trying to find those players, even non-blue chip players that could be diamonds in the rough, and Dusty Anderson could certainly be one of those said diamonds in the rough for sure, as it would eventually lead to a West Virginia touchdown. So West Virginia, man, they're looking really good here in this first half. Going to take a 21-7 lead into the locker room, and you know what's scarier? West Virginia, they get the ball to start this second half too, and they take up literally half of the third quarter. And it comes down to this. 2nd down and 4 coming up. Looks like West Virginia wants to pound it in. Looking to run it down their throat. And sure enough, oh, Dan Bishop cannot make it into the end zone. But they will give him the first down, though. It was possible for him to pick up a first down without actually getting to the end zone. They won't need another first down, though. Dan Bishop scores after getting another carry. And what is going on here? Seems like these ranked teams are struggling a little bit more than usual here in this NCSL Season 4. Dare I say it, are we seeing some serious parity in the NCSL? This would be a true sight to behold. I know the NCAA sim engine, it's a random sim engine. I do know that, but Landry's going to make a big-time throw over to the left-hand side, trying desperately to get the Volunteers back into this game. And Landrum does throw 3 touchdown passes in the game, but I'm sure what's going to really cost Tennessee here today is the fact that, well, he also threw 3 interceptions. So really that peak Jameis Winston mentality back when he was the first overall pick with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But yeah, Tennessee is going to go down, and West Virginia, man, we might need to rank these guys. So remember when I told you that you guys would be surprised with where College Game Day ended up going? College Game Day decided to go to Iowa versus Minnesota. But what you are going to find out is this is not the Big Ten West football that you remember and love whatsoever. Matter of fact, this is not your daddy's Big Ten West football. The title was had for a reason. And we see some touchdowns here. What's going on here? This is a sight to behold. We have an offensive touchdown in Big Ten West football. I didn't even know that it was possible. And not only do we get 1 offensive touchdown in the first quarter, we get 2 offensive touchdowns in the first quarter. We could be in for a very exciting matchup in the Twin Cities, as Minnesota and Iowa are both seeking to go to 2-0. Will Harrison, he's been around for a very long time. He started as a freshman feel like he's been starting for this Minnesota squad since year number 1. He's been around the block a few times. Let me put it that way. But Minnesota trying to get it to 2-0, and Brandon Brown somehow maintains his concentration and makes that catch. Absolutely incredible stuff there, man. That is a tight window, and Iowa just might put together the longest offensive play of the entire season. Iowa back up inside their 5-yard line is going to find Sean Venny down the sideline, and it goes from just trying to avoid the safety to now Iowa has a 95-yard touchdown. What is going on here? Completely bamboozled right now, and I'm sure the Minnesota fans are just as confused as you guys that are watching it right now, man. I hear you down there in the comment section. But that being said, Minnesota does have a chance to respond. Plenty of time left. They even have a couple of timeouts to work with as well, as Cornelius Green finds a first down. Is able to move the Gophers inside the 30-yard line, as Lou Harrison going to take off and run here. He's got some serious mobility, and man, that mobility was felt. Jeff Bishop did have to go ahead and bring him down. But now we are looking at a 3rd and short coming up. Lou Harrison going to go ahead and run it into the end zone. Touchdown, Minnesota, and the Golden Gophers are back in the lead. And we are going to be in for an exciting one. 4th quarter on our doorstep. Still just a 3-point game. Who wants it more in this Couch Game Day match of the week? 3rd and goal now coming up. Minnesota going to go ahead and run it out to the left-hand side. And he is in. Touchdown, Minnesota. And that ended up being the ultimate difference. Golden Gophers will go on and win 35-24. Get to 2-0 here on this young season. But that being said, last one of these mid-afternoon games, we go down to the Carolinas here in the ACC Conference with a matchup between South Carolina and Eastern Carolina. Now, South Carolina, they have been a team that's been through a lot of chaos over the past couple of years in this Sim League. I believe South Carolina is on their 3rd coach in the last 3 years, and you want to know what being at rock bottom is? Rock bottom might be this particular moment right here. An Eastern Carolina squad who has honestly not been very good in this entire series. Granted, we've seen them play a couple of times over the course of the whole series. They're going to be up by 3 touchdowns against South Carolina. Yeah, absolutely hate to see it, and it remains that same score into the 4th quarter. South Carolina down by 3 touchdowns in the 4th quarter to their lesser in-state rivals in Eastern Carolina. I could not have fathomed this when we originally started this series, but South Carolina does at least score a little bit here, but it's not going to be enough. Eastern Carolina takes down the Gamecocks 36-20, and the Gamecocks, man, they might be in some deep trouble as a program. So, a few more games are getting ready to kick off here shortly. A big matchup to watch out for is Cal versus Michigan, but we'll check in on that later. First and foremost, we are going to check in on the number 12 Georgia Bulldogs. They will be hosting Florida Atlantic for some SEC conference action. Frankly, this would also be a cross-divisional matchup, and Georgia gets off to an excellent start here. Up 17-0 already, but Florida Atlantic, they refuse to be shut out. And one thing that we did see last week for Georgia is that Georgia really struggled defensively against Coastal Carolina. So trying to really get this defense to get used to the type of scheme that Jake Jacobs wants to run. He is the one of your guys' custom coaches and coming in from TCU, and he's not used to having this much talent on his defense, but maybe Jake Jacobs isn't doing the best job of utilizing that talent per se, right? Because Georgia is going to be in a dogfight with Florida Atlantic. FAU might mess around and pull this upset off. And it's crazy to think about because Georgia was just up mightily. I thought it was going to be one of those games where, we're probably going to sim out here real quick, get a little bit of super sim action. But no, we actually get to see the full game here because it ends up being a competitive matchup after all, as Elliott Hartman He'll find the end zone here for the Georgia Bulldogs. They'll even go for the 2-point conversion, and they throw it short, able to find his man in the end zone. So Georgia takes the lead, but college football, it's not about just if you win or not, as you've seen from in real life and in the sim league as well. Sometimes it's all about getting those style points as well, and they'll snag a few style points here at the end, as Georgia does make it a 2-possession win against Florida Atlantic out here in the SEC Conference. That being said, let's now check in on Arizona State, taking on the former number 1 team in the nation, UCLA, but UCLA not number 1 anymore, as they had that shocking loss in the opening week of the season. They lost to Illinois last week, so both teams actually searching for their first wins of the season, and Arizona State, again, going to get on the scoreboard here. Tremaine McCullum, the FCS transfer, will give the Sun Devils the lead. But later on in the first quarter, the Bruins will also find the end zone with an FCS transfer of their own in McAfee, Walter McAfee. Don't know why we had a quick brain fart, because his name just popped up on the screen. I hate to see it. But UCLA, learning from their mistakes in week number 1, they are going to do what they can to make sure Arizona State is not randomly hanging around. It's not like we would see that happen here, but Arizona State, give them credit. Those guys, even though they don't nearly have the same level of talent that UCLA has on their side of the ball, there is a big reason why UCLA is a national champion, of course. But Sun Devils are hanging around, and it's kind of the script that we saw back in week number 1, where Illinois, we might have saw mostly UCLA highlights, but Illinois is just going to do enough to hang around, right? That's really what we're seeing right now. But that being said, UCLA does have a chance to take some momentum into the halftime. Really good drive by this offense, as Kobe Green does get his 5th catch of the day. He's already on the verge of 100 yards, seeing some big-time performances in the first half. And we're going to see a big-time touchdown to J.P. Owen to allow Brandon Hollis, the new starting quarterback for the Bruins. He'll give UCLA a 10-point lead into the half. Now, second half coming in, and UCLA looking to build off its momentum that it did build up in halftime, as Brandon Hollis actually decides wisely to slide on down, as Brandon Hollis will make it a 3rd and 5. And he'll pick up the first down for the UCLA Bruins by throwing it out to Nicholas McMahon, who gets his 3rd catch of the evening. 1st and goal now coming up after the first down. Looking over the middle of the field and finds his receiver. And Nicholas McMahon was almost able to get back up there. If he was able to keep himself off the ground, oh man, that would have been a top highlight here in year number 4. But did get it inside the 5-yard line, and Walker McAfee is going to do the rest of the work there. He'll find the end zone yet again, and the Bruins will now take a 31-14 lead. Looking over to the left-hand side, though, be another touchdown to Kobe Green. That should put him well over 100 yards. So UCLA should win this game, unless there is an absolute miracle. But we have seen crazier things in this beautiful game that is college football, so you truly never know what can happen, right? So, 18-point lead between UCLA and Arizona State. The Sun Devils trying to go for 2, but the 2-point conversion is no good. And with 4:30 left to play, Hollis will find the end zone yet again. And I think that fat lady is going to be singing. So, UCLA wins big, 45-20. As they do finally get their first win of the year. So, we now get into really the only top 25 matchup that I'm aware of this week. It's number 16 California going in, taking on the Wolverines of Michigan. And how does California respond, right? Cal had an excellent season, number 3, nearly made the college football playoff. But they lost to TCU last week, right, in the All-State kickoff. So, going to have to play a lot better if they're going to play with this Michigan team. Another squad that nearly made the college football playoff. Could be a playoff game preview. Who knows? But like I said, Cal made some mistakes early, and Michigan will be able to capitalize off of said mistakes. Mario Sims gets open in the end zone, an easy touchdown throw for the new quarterback, Junior Blaylock, who's taking over for the custom FM4, who has since moved on to pursue those NFL dreams. But a 16-0 lead, and Michigan with a chance to extend that lead, but instead, Junior Blaylock is going to throw an interception too, and only he could stop him, but it's not going to happen. Touchdown, Cal. Michael Bass, that guy might single-handedly got California right back in this game. On that route, we got a little bit of lag there, so you do hate to see that, but Cal is back in this game. After a tough loss to TCU, could they parlay this momentum into beating the number 2 team in football? Like, is that going to be a thing right now? Who knows? But we cut into late in the third quarter, and we don't see a lot of scoring in the third quarter, only like a field goal. And then we do see this touchdown for Garen Myers, as Junior Blaylock will end up throwing his second passing touchdown of the night. And that was just an easy throw in zone coverage, and there was some bigger holes in that zone, not going to lie to you. So, Michigan up 26-7. Cal just trying to do anything and everything to get back into this game, but just like Cal was able to get a pick 6 earlier in the game, well, the favor ends up getting returned back to him, but it's one of the linebackers getting involved. Sam Fleming able to read the eyes of Lance Morgan, and Lance Morgan just having a difficult day today. This is not Lance Morgan's day whatsoever. The third interception that he's thrown, and makes you wonder if he is a big reason why this Cal team is being held back, right? Because granted, Cal is not the same team that it was last year. There is a depletion of talent, but thing is though, like, y'all shouldn't be this bad after you nearly made the playoff last year, right? And that's a crazy thing in all of this. But wait a minute, they might have just made me eat their words, because even though they are getting absolutely blown out right now here in this fourth quarter, this Cal Bears squad is going to continue to fight. And honestly, it has been also a really sloppy day as well. I mean, 7 total turnovers between these two teams, and it's never a good sign when you do have more turnovers than touchdowns scored, right? You hate to see it. And speaking of turnovers, Lance Morgan, he has all day to throw this ball. And what does he do? He throws yet another interception. Oh, what are we doing? That quarterback might be giving Cal fans the ick. And Michigan is going to win convincingly. They win 33-7 in a ranked matchup. Cal might have some better days ahead of them. They're taking on Ohio next week. But man, you got to be concerned for Cal on the eve of conference play happening in the Pac-12 in just a couple weeks from now. So that being said, we just have a couple more weeks left in the NCSL Week 2 action. At least that's being nationally televised. One of those 2 games is number 3 USC going on the road to take on the Scarlet Knights of Rutgers. Both teams did end up winning their opening games. But USC, man, USC is simply on a different level right now. But kind of a little bit of an announcer's jinx there, possibly, as Victor Spence throws an interception. But Rutgers doesn't do anything with it, so it still ends up being business as usual anyways. And now we're seeing USC on a little bit of a different level right now. It just seems from the get-go, USC was confident in its abilities to win, while Rutgers just seemed like a team that was, just happy to be there. Happy to be on national television in Piscataway, New Jersey, where the Rutgers campus is actually placed. And we saw that happen on the field here today. USC is going to score again here in the second quarter. Victor Spence picking up the touchdowns, man. He's going to have a touchdown here on the ground. I believe that is his first rushing touchdown for him. And then in that third quarter, USC looking to put it away in the third. They do it with Terrell Salas. Salas is going to score for the Trojans, and it was a blowout from the get-go. USC is going to beat Rutgers here, 45-14 being your final score. And finally, the last game that we've had planned is Miami actually hosting an FCS squad. Miami's going to take on Youngstown State. Youngstown State making the trip all the way from Northeast Ohio to be here in sunny Florida. But Miami not exactly playing its sharpest ball, right? You would expect them to play a little bit better than that. But before we show the rest of the game, how about what Ohio is doing? They beat a ranked opponent in Georgia Tech, so maybe Cal has some things to worry about after all. So we'll see if we get a score update from that in week number 3, if it's not a nationally televised game. But Miami does eventually get their stuff together here. They do what they're supposed to do when you have an FCS team coming into your home stadium, and that is frankly to go out and blow out these FCS squads. That's what you gotta do. And yeah, we're seeing that happen right before our eyes. Miami starting the process of pulling away. It really was genuinely not a very good first half at all for the Miami Hurricanes, but they will use some of that no huddle offense to get into the end zone quickly. Rodney Walker actually going to be untouched here as well. He'll find the end zone for the Hurricanes. So Miami does take a 20-3 lead into the half. And then in that second half, well, this is what you typically see in the second half when you have FCS teams going up against teams that are in that higher level of Division I football. It was a complete splattering as Miami wins 58-3, but not a complete game as some people might call it. But now let's go and take some looks around the country to take a look at some notable scores that happen around the nation. And how about what we got started here? How about Texas State getting their first win of the season under Justin Faith? They're able to beat Chattanooga 38-3. And then speaking of those FCS games, Illinois is coming off of a big-time win against UCLA. And they don't have that disappointment. They win 49-21 to remain in the top 25. Now, as for the Clemson Tigers win big against Vanderbilt on the road, mind you, 55-24. And yet Clemson is still not ranked in the top 25. They seem like they are a team that's determined to get some revenge for what happened in year number 3. However, as for the Washington Huskies, your number 1 team in the nation, they took on Sacred Heart, and honestly, a little bit of a disappointing effort for the Huskies. They do end up winning, but only put up 29, could lead to some bigger questions down the road. However, the Raging Cajuns do win their first game of the season against an FCS opponent, 45-14. Rice does the same thing. They beat North Dakota 49-34, and this was the opening game of the season for the Rice Owls. They might have some defensive issues giving up 30 to an FCS team. Ohio State, though, took on Missouri State and wins 38-17. An opening day for the Ohio State Buckeyes, who are just simply getting the rust off here in year number 4. Now, for the Army Black Knights, they won the Conference USA last year, and they're off to a similar start yet again here in year number 4. The Army Black Knights beat UCF 35-24, and UCF still searching for their first win here in year number 4 after giving up 21 unanswered in that second half. As for the Oklahoma Sooners, they also do the same thing to an FCS opponent, winning 20-7, but their offense, like Washington, might have some question marks as we get deeper into the season. This was just their opening game, though. Meanwhile, the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. Hawaii has really emerged over the past few seasons. Hawaii starting off in the top 25 and doing all right against Missouri State here, winning 27-3. Hawaii is 2-0, but not the best offensive start that we've seen dating back to their opener against Northwestern. Eastern Michigan, meanwhile, looked dominant in their game against an FCS opponent, as Eastern Michigan was able to win one 41-7. The Eagles are off to a 2-0 start, a promising season number 4 brewing for Eastern Michigan Eagles. The same could also be said for Florida State, the number 4 team in the nation, doing what they're supposed to do against an FCS squad, dominate them. The Seminoles win 49-7, as they had no problems winning their opening matchup. Of course, we have Missouri finally winning its first game of the season against an FCS opponent as well. They beat Youngstown State 35-3. Southern Miss also going to win against an FCS team. They win 38-17 to stay in this top 25 after just getting in last week. So here's what our top 25 polls are shaking out for after just a couple of weeks of NCSL football, and we don't have a lot of change here at the very top. Your top 10 to 11 teams are essentially the same at this point. Not a lot of change to report at this point in the season. We do see Illinois move up a couple of spots. They're up to number 15 in the country. They'll take on Arizona State in the next episode. Florida does get a decent bump though. They move up 3 spots, and they will have a date against Miami next week. That'll be a critical SEC matchup to watch out for. Rice moves up 3 spots. Even though they gave up a bunch against an FCS team, that might have been a thing of attrition. LSU able to recover after losing their opening matchup. They respond by beating Troy at home. Actually, that's a little bit off. But Auburn moves up 4 spots. Cal 0-2, but still ranked in the top 25 for now. They're going to be looking to get their first win of the season against the Ohio Bobcats, who just pulled the upset off against Georgia Tech this week, actually. We saw that in a studio update. And rounding out your top 25, you got Hawaii at 21, Southern Miss at 22, and then a few newcomers here. North Carolina back in at number 23 in the country. They honestly shouldn't have left in the first place. TCU in here at number 24. And then the Tennessee Volunteers barely hanging on. They are ranked number 25 in the entire country. So that will wrap up your NCSL content here in week number 2. We've seen our fair share of upsets so far this year. I think this could be a chaotic college football season up ahead of us, and I hope you guys are truly excited for it. If you are, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button, hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel. This is John J Gaming on the mic signing off. Hope you guys are all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.